Hello, all my dear friends out in TV land. This is Senior Issues, etc. I'm your host, Vita Verdon. I've got a very interesting show that's going to be helpful. It's a lot of information. So you sit back and relax. And the subject matter we're going to talk about and find out what it is SCORE. Keep that in mind, SCORE. And I have two mentors. You know what mentors are? They're going to tell us what a mentor is and how it works. And I have these two nice-looking young men with me today. You know, I say young men, everything is younger than me today. It's Norman Letofsky and Phil Hartung. So Norm and Phil, good to have you back. You know, they were here a few years back, but we didn't get enough information. So I had said I wanted them to come back and update, and they're going to update. And I know some of you weren't watching at that time, and some of you were, and some of you have forgotten. Don't worry, I do too. So just sit back and take it all in, but you need a paper and pencil. So I'm going to get to Norm first, and you know, we're good friends out there, and they're good friends with you. They've seen you before, but tell them a little bit about yourself.
Well, I grew up in North Dakota, the great state of North Dakota, and endured all the cold winters. Went to the University of North Dakota, and finally, after moving around and going through the military, we moved to Chicago in the early 70s, and I've stayed ever since. I've worked in industry. I was a chief financial officer for a mid-sized corporation. And the last quarter of my career, I was in software consulting. I did begin my own company as a software consultant. Ran it for about 8 or 9 years. And I joined SCORE well in the midst of my software consulting, but since I've retired, it's been much more active in SCORE. I joined because it's just wonderful to work with people who are starting businesses and mentoring them. And I can specialize in things like my financial area and my software.
Oh, that's good. Well, now we're going to talk to your next door neighbor, who in life is also your next door neighbor,
Absolutely.
Right? Literally, they're next door neighbors.
I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, where I met and eventually married my childhood sweetheart. Left St. Louis and went to school here in the Chicago area. Studied industrial engineering and management science, and started off on a career that initially involved things that related to my field. I was actually a round peg in a round hole for a while. We moved around the country, worked for various people, lived in Philadelphia, we lived in Cincinnati, we lived in Albany, New York, Chicago a couple of times. Finally retired when we were living in Minneapolis and working for a company that was in the cable TV shopping industry. We planted children and grandchildren all over the country. It seemed like every place we lived, we planted a child or a grandchild. So we're a family well covered in the United States.
Oh, that's good. Well, first of all, we're going to just take this name, S-C-O-R-E, SCORE. Now, maybe the two of you together can give us a definition of what SCORE is.
Well, let me start with the acronym, and then Norm can fill in some of what we're doing currently. But SCORE originally, 45 years ago, was an acronym that stood for Service Corps of Retired Executives. We really stopped using that the word as an acronym. The reason is we have a lot of volunteers, and they're not all retired. Norm and I are, but not. We have a lot of folks that are still active in their jobs or with their business that are volunteers with us. And executive is a little misleading too. We have folks that came to us with specialized skills, or a number of folks that were just entrepreneurs, and to which the word executive is a little inexact. So we just call ourselves SCORE now and don't worry about the acronym, but it's okay if you use the acronym.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to give a little?
Well, of course, and one of the things is if you want to see even more about us, our website is scorechicago.org.
And the telephone number?
312-353-7724.
Didn't mean to cut you off, but I know he memorizes the number.
And I don't. But we have just a huge number of talented individuals with all these different skill sets. I actually like working with businesses and I like the mentoring, but I also really like teaching our SCORE volunteers how to use our website, how to use all of our software. And I've actually implemented the new software packages that the government has developed for us.
Well, let me ask you a really dumb question. Do you get paid for doing this?
Oh, no, it's all volunteer.
And then does the person that's coming in, the client, have to pay?
No.
So do you hear that? You got that? Is that clear? This is the plus to it. Do you hear that? Now, I'm going to say again, does the client come in have to pay?
No.
Okay, so let's start at some point. And I think the part of starting at is there's the mentoring part and there's the workshop part. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what part are you going to take, Phil?
I'll talk a little bit about the workshops. We give, in addition to what Norm will explain about our mentoring, we free or low cost, some free, some minimal cost workshops to cover supply costs. But we give workshops on all phases of business. We give workshops on how to start a business. We give a workshop that asks the question, do you really want to go into business? Is it really for you? We give some advanced level workshops. We give workshops on how to use QuickBooks. We give lots of workshops on social media, workbooks on operating a business, on marketing, at all levels, for startup businesses, for experienced business. Workshops almost every day in Chicagoland, someplace, there is one or more workshops that we're presenting. We give workshops at our downtown location, down in the SBA, Small Business Administration offices downtown. We give workshops in local libraries. We give workshops in the Gurney Library. We give workshops in the Vernon Area Library. We give workshops in the Mundelein area. And by the way, the library workshops are all free. The length of time, the commitment of time can be anywhere from an hour to all day, depending on the subject. We have some workshops where they're very intense and we want to have a lot of material to cover. The workshops are all led by volunteers. No one gets paid. The workshops, in fact, we kind of brag about the fact we think our workshops are special because they're not necessarily taught by teachers. Now, some of us were teachers, not in our careers someplace in the past. But our workshops are not taught by professional educators. Our workshops are taught by people who've sort of been there, done that kind of people. So we have a workshop on marketing. It's led by somebody who ran a marketing business, had a marketing position in a company. When Norm, for instance, does workshops on finance, he does it from the experience of having been a chief financial officer. So we're very proud of our workshops and we think they accomplish a lot.
Oh, good. Now I think Norm is going to take over and talk us something about mentoring.
Well, yeah, mentoring, and what I like to look at is mentoring is where we are working with you as a client in either starting your business or maybe helping grow your business or consulting. I look at really 3 parts of mentoring. Number 1 is that individual who just wants to start a business. That's my favorite personally. That's where we need to do a business plan and we need to understand if what you're doing will work. If you want to, for example, to own a coffee shop, I want you to understand how many cups of coffee you need to sell. Then we have people who have been in business maybe a couple, 3 years. They're small companies, and maybe they want help with how do I read a financial statement? I'm having some trouble financing. Can you help me find a place to get a loan? And then there's the third, and they're a little bit bigger businesses. They might be $3 million. They've been around for a while, and we have consultants who actually go out and work with them. All of these things are free. And In the mentoring, you can come or we can go to you as many times as you want.
Oh, that's good. What I wanted to mention is you're representative of the Chicago and surrounding area.
Correct.
But SCORE goes throughout the whole United States,
It
right?
It does.
If people go to the website, which we want to mention one more time,
scorechicago.org.
And the telephone number?
312-353-7724.
All right, we're going to go into a fuller extent of it, but first of all, what I'm going to do at this time is Vita's Pearls of Wisdom. Okay, now what I want to talk to you, you've gotten to know me. We started in the year 2000. We're just completing our 15th year, and we are certified. We have our 501c3, so we're considered, our formal title is we're a non-for-profit charitable production company. That's our formal title. Now, what we are is we're tax deductible. And what I'm going to say is, I've never done this before, but I have a need at this time. If we have grown from starting out with 3 communities, we started with Grace Lake, Libertyville, and Mundelein, and now we're exceeding 100 communities, which we're very happy and very satisfied with, because we feel the need that we are educating. Since we're the first generation that's lived this long, we're role models. Now, in this growth process, there's also an expansion of expenses. And each one of us, as the crew of Senior Issues, etc., as a volunteer, and you know I'm always hammering on the importance of volunteering, the importance of doing it to keep these little gray cells going, and the importance that it is done, because we're connecting and we're doing an active role in today's society. So with these additional expenses, you know, it has to come from, I don't pluck it from heaven, I'm pioneering this. So if you feel in your heart that you have benefited from the show, show us. And you make a check out to Senior Issues, etc., and you can send it to my address. I don't keep it for myself. It goes in the Senior Issues, etc. Fund at the bank. It's a special fund set aside just to pay our expenses. And I live at 130 East Cook Avenue, apartment 408 in Libertyville, Illinois. Also, if you could go to the website, which is seniorissuesetc.org, all the information for sending it to me. And then, you know, I got something for you in it. Any kind of donations that's set, I have the last page of our website is the donors page. I'll put your name up in lights and you'll be on the website. I got something else for you if you want to come on the air in my Pearls issue, and I could say, here's one of our faithful donors, and you could be introduced on the air. You could be on television, or I could mention your name on television. It's entirely up to you. But this is what we need to stay on the air another year. You know, I'm always declaring we're going to live forever, so we're stretching this out as long as we have. I've got one cameraman that's 91, and the graphics man is 88. I'm going to be 83 in a couple of weeks, and Gloria's 85, so we're up there, but we're strong, we're alive, and we're vital, and we're doing this. You are helping us, and we are helping you. We can't make it without you, and I need your support at this time. Now, we're going to get back to the other information, this vital information that we're getting about SCORE.
Well, Vita, I'm sorry, I want to interrupt because I want to
Okay.
add something to your pearls of wisdom, if I might.
All right.
I've had the privilege of working with Vita and Gloria and all the crew here for the last couple of years. And I want to emphasize what Vita said about the need and the importance of contributing to senior issues, et cetera, keeping it going. I want to point out how modest. I've had the privilege, Vita shared some information with me, and it's a really very modest budget. As Vita said, nobody gets any, it's all volunteers, nobody gets paid. And money all goes to the production costs. So the needs are modest, which means that small contributions of any kind can add up very quickly. So as Vita said, please go to the Senior Issues, Etc. website and click on the sponsors page, and there will be a way to send a check in to Senior Issues, Etc. It's very important. Thank you, Vita.
Okay, thank you. Now, what I'd like to talk about SCORE is SCORE saved the life of Senior Issues website. They literally saved our life. What happened to me, people that have listened for a long time have heard this, but you could hear it again, and the new people are just hearing it. For complicated reasons, a few years back, we lost our website due to probably my neglect of not seeing our server was Microsoft, and they sold out to an outfit in Australia. Well, they were sending me messages that I did not see, and consequently what happened is my domain and all my data was sent over to Australia. Now, both the producer, Gloria Shapiro, and myself spend over 3.5 months and quite a bit of money in trying to retrieve, well, we lost the data completely, but we were trying to retrieve our domain name, the name of our website. And it's too long to go into the details, and it doesn't matter, that out of desperation, what we did is we found SCORE. Whew. Thank God I found these two knights sitting right here in shining armor. I and Gloria live in Libertyville, Illinois, and we met them at the Fremont Library, which is one of the places that the mentors meet, and you have to set up an appointment. But there's several locations. That is not the only location. You call in your area for an appointment. Okay, now I'm just telling you, I would say, we spend altogether over $200 and 3.5 months time trying to figure out some way to get going again, because we didn't have any website going, all right? Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba! Up comes SCORE and my two knights in shiny armor. We go into the meeting. You know how long it took? 20 minutes. 20 minutes. 19 of which was spent spouting off all our garbage story. 1 minute for them to give us the answer. Get a new website. Go to GoDaddy. Duh. And it worked. So I wanted to state that if you're in trouble. So what we want to go through is the many areas of expertise that people need something, that it's besides the mentors. Maybe you could pick this up a little bit.
Well, as Norm mentioned, when clients come to us or go to our workshops, they come with a variety of needs and concerns. As Norm mentioned, sometimes it's, should I actually go into business? Some cases it can be very complicated. We're very specific and diligent about our confidentiality with our clients. So I don't have permission to talk about this particular client, so I'm going to obfuscate a little bit. But we have a client who is a retailer here in Lake County, and they had a particular they're a very successful retailer, but they had a particular problem with inventory and managing their inventory. And so they came to us, and we worked over 3 or 4 sessions. We even went to their place of business and looked at their records, and they seemed to be satisfied. We wished them well, and they're doing very well. So it was sometimes it's a long-term thing, like SCORE working with you, Vita, and sometimes it can be a matter of 2 or 3 sessions.
And now I want to get to Norm.
Yeah, one of the things that I find so amazing about SCORE is our volunteers. We have an opportunity not only to utilize our lifetime of experience, but also to learn. And in order to help a client, I have to learn things.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
If somebody wants some advice or wants something, do they have to be a senior?
No, absolutely
Well, we want to
not.
clear that up.
It can be anybody who has the need.
All right, well, let's go into this volunteering program, because here I am. Okay, I'll set myself up. Okay, I've just retired from work, and I'm a little bit fussy about things. I don't want to get involved in something. I've had a job for all these years. You know, I want this to be interesting. I want this to be fun. Let's take it from there, because I don't want to be intimidated by something. So maybe let's give a description of the areas. Expand on that.
Boy, there are so many areas, it's almost an impossibility. But for example, if you like mentoring, and I have somebody come in who has a special need, we can find someone who actually did that. For example, if you ran a retail store for your whole life and you want to start one, I can find a mentor, if I'm not the one, who can actually help you with that need.
But how about a volunteer coming in?
Volunteers also, because, for example, I love software and I love the internet. I was able to learn things about social networking. We have other people who specialize in other fields. One volunteer used to specialize in international shipments, and he came in and taught courses on how to ship internationally. So whatever your field of interest is, you can find it at SCORE as a volunteer. You can either mentor if you like to, you can help with websites, you can help with teaching, you can help with whatever your background and interests lie.
Well, I want to get to Phil. So somebody volunteers, are they just thrown out to the wolves?
No.
What happens?
No, we do not throw you out to the wolves. Well, for one thing, we like to talk, as you can tell. If someone is interested in volunteering, again, go to our website, scorechicago.org, and there's a tab for putting in your information. And we will contact you immediately. And what we do is we just sit down and talk with you. You tell us about yourself. We tell you about ourselves. We talk about mutual interests. We talk about whether you might want the opportunities to teach a course, the opportunities to mentor. And if there's some part of that sounds interesting, you say, well, I don't really want to mentor, but I could be a resource and talk about my area of specialty, especially, or I'm a generalist and I would like to mentor. Then we help you in terms, we have training programs because we are working with outside people that are not volunteers, because you are working with clients. We do insist on a little bit of training. It's not strenuous. There are no tests. There are no diplomas, but we do help you and encourage you and teach you some things that we think are important when it comes to dealing with our clients. And then we, in general, assign a mentor, find a volunteer that will be your mentor. We'll mentor the mentors. So there is no activity with which you might work with us, that you're on your own. So there's training, there's working with an experienced volunteer. And after all of that, if you still want to work with us, we'd be delighted to have you.
Well, one thing that I would like to emphasize, and I think it's important to emphasize this, is that everybody has some sort of skill. I don't care how smart you are, how rich you are, how poor you are, how dumb you are, you have some kind of skill. And that skill is improved if you use it. If you don't use these things up here, these little gray scales that we got inside, you lose it. So one way of extending our life and enriching, it's an enrichment, our life, is by keeping it going. So, we're advocates. What I'd like to ask both of you, knights in shiny armor, is that you have dedicated yourself to SCORE as not on a full-time basis outside of your personal life, but Phil, how have you benefited from being a mentor with SCORE?
Well, I think there's two ways. The first is, as Norm mentioned, you can't be a volunteer, you can't be a mentor, you can't teach a workshop without learning more than you already knew. So it's been a great learning experience for me, working with people like Norm that do know about social media, I retired at a time when social media was nowhere to be seen. So to be an effective volunteer with SCORE, I've had to learn some basics and learn the resource people I can work with. So it's been a learning experience. The other way is I really enjoy working with the clients. Vita, over the last couple of years, we've been working together. I found it very enjoyable and rewarding. And I can't think of a single client that I haven't enjoyed meeting and learning about just as a people, not just their business issues, but just learning about them as a person.
And how about for you, Norm?
Well, much of it is the same thing, the learning we get, but you talked about enriching other people's lives.
Yes.
I think by enriching other people's lives, you enrich your own. And I've learned so much that I thought I knew a lot, nowhere near what I've learned in the last, 8 or 9 years that I've been with SCORE. It's just been amazing because I've met people, I've learned things I've never even thought of, and it's been a great experience for me.
Well, what I've said when I was talking to my knights before the show is that my job as an educator for living long, our goal is to live forever. We're stretching it as far as we can. And in coming into this, as an advocate, this is the 21st century way that, back then in my mother and father's days, it was the potbelly stove, the little community store, talking over the fence. And this is our way of connecting and enriching each other. And as the first generation going forward like that we're leaving a legacy, and this is only going to grow. This senior issue show we see tomorrow as connecting all around, that every community would have them. As with SCORE, this is a way of extending your life after your working life is over with, that you either are getting help in starting a new way of life or you're helping somebody, but it's keeping those connections open is what enriches. Now, if you want to give a final thought to our audience, you can look right into that camera and give them some little gem to throw into the future.
Well, I would say that if you are thinking about a business, or you have a business, or you have a relative or that's in business and would like to just talk with us, there's no obligation, and we would love to meet you and talk with you about your issues. Or if you'd like to volunteer, we would very much like to talk with you, even if it doesn't go anywhere. We'll meet you for a cup of coffee, and we'll tell you what we're all about, and see what comes from that.
And Norm, why don't you give them the website?
Again, it's scorechicago.org.
And the telephone number?
312-353-7724.
Now listen, we're all connected, and how we're connected is it is our privilege and our joy to serve you, to help you lead a more enriched life. And we're letting you in on the secrets. Listen to these old cronies right here. We've gone through it. We found out what's good. And it's good when you open yourself up and you help somebody, because the more you give, the more enriched you become, the more you love it. And that is the road to living forever. That it's, as long as you stretch it and you're reaching out with love in your heart, do this with love. You find something you love and you go after it, and you can go after it when you pick SCORE to help you or you help. Now, you know what time it is now? When you out there, you that's sitting on the couch, get up, rise up. Because when you come to the end of your rope, you tie a knot and hang on. You know why? Because the best is yet to come. And what we want you all to do this week is catch the spirit. God bless you. We love you.